The grand recognition ceremony at the Luminari Royal Palace was precisely the kind of formal occasion Lieutenant Commander David Mitchell usually dreaded. But today, he was the guest of honor. Queen Ceres Valthera, ruler of the Luminari Empire for 15 years, sat on her throne in full ceremonial regalia. Her long, elegant ears were adorned with royal markers, her bioluminescent markings glowing in formal patterns. She was known for political brilliance, unwavering dedication to her people, and complete emotional detachment from personal matters. The ceremony honored David for his role in resolving the border conflict through unconventional diplomatic solutions that saved millions of lives. The Luminari Council had granted him the right of royal choice, an ancient tradition allowing him to request any reasonable gift. Queen Ceres addressed him in ritual words. Lieutenant Commander David Mitchell, you have rendered service that words cannot adequately honor. By ancient right and current gratitude, we offer you the choice. Name your desire, wealth, lands, titles, position, or if your heart inclines toward personal matters, you may choose any woman of marriageable status within our court to be your companion, should she consent. What do you choose? It was generous. Several eligible noblewomen were present, and Luminari rarely intermarried with other species. David had been on Velara Prime for 3 years. He'd learned their customs, earned their respect, and though he'd never spoken of it, fallen completely and hopelessly in love with the one person who should be beyond his reach, Queen Ceres herself. He'd watched her navigate impossible situations, seen her make decisions that cost her personally but served her people. He'd witnessed moments when her mask slipped before she locked it away again. He knew what he was about to do was madness, but the ceremony had given him an opening he'd never have again. He met Queen Ceres's eyes directly, which itself was breach of protocol, and spoke clearly enough for the entire court to hear. Your Majesty, my choice is simple. I want you. The court's reaction was immediate. Gasps, whispers, outrage. This wasn't done. The queen was not an option in the choice. She was untouchable, sacred, beyond personal desire. But David didn't break eye contact. He just waited. And Queen Ceres, brilliant, controlled, unflappable Queen Ceres, froze completely, her bioluminescent markings flickering in patterns no one had seen before. Shock, confusion, and something that might be hope fighting with fear. The silence stretched unbearably. Queen Ceres stared at David, her usual composure shattered. Her long ears had gone still, and her bioluminescent markings cycled through colors so rapidly it was clear she was experiencing emotions she couldn't control. The court waited, frozen, because no one had protocol for this. Finally, Queen Ceres found her voice, though it wasn't as steady as usual. This is not appropriate. The choice was meant for selecting from the court's eligible women. I cannot be. She struggled with words her court had never witnessed. I am the queen. I am not an option in such matters. David maintained that improper eye contact. Your Majesty, with respect, you said I could choose any woman of marriageable status within your court should she consent. You are unmarried. You are part of this court, its center, in fact. And I am asking for your consent, not demanding it. If you refuse, I accept that. But I couldn't let this opportunity pass without being honest about what I truly want. The court erupted in shocked murmurs. Several advisors approached the throne, but she waved them back with a sharp gesture, her markings flashing with irritation, not at David but at the interruption. You would choose me, she said. Not wealth or title. Not one of the eligible noblewomen. You would choose the most complicated, politically fraught, personally impossible option available. Why? David's answer was devastating in its honesty. Because I've spent 3 years watching you carry the weight of an empire alone. Because I've seen you make impossible decisions with grace. Because I've witnessed moments when you think no one is watching and you let yourself feel the cost of leadership. Because you're brilliant and dedicated and so focused on duty that you've forgotten you're also a person who deserves happiness. And because somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. Not the queen, but you. The woman who hides exhaustion behind composure. You asked what I wanted. That's my answer, you. Queen Ceres's markings settled into a pattern the court had never seen. Profound emotional impact, barriers breaking down. You are either the bravest human I've ever met, she said, voice barely audible, or the most foolish. Probably both, David admitted. But I've learned from you that sometimes the important things require bold choices. The queen was silent, then did something unprecedented. She stood, walked down from her throne, and approached David directly. She stopped just in front of him. If I were to consent, and I'm not saying I am, do you understand what you're asking for? The scrutiny we would face. The fact that a relationship with your queen would mean your life becomes political theater. Yes, David said simply, and I'm choosing you anyway. Queen Ceres didn't give her answer immediately. She adjourned the ceremony, citing need to consider the unprecedented situation. David heard nothing for 3 days. On the evening of the third day, Queen Ceres summoned him to her private study, not the throne room, but a room that was actually personal. She wasn't wearing ceremonial robes but simpler clothing. Her long ears were uncovered. Her bioluminescent markings glowed softly without formal patterns. She looked younger, more vulnerable, somehow even more beautiful. Sit, she said. This is not a formal audience. This is a conversation between two people. Can you manage that? David sat, noting she'd chosen equal chairs. I'll try. Queen Ceres paced. Do you know what you've done, not just politically, but personally? I've told you how I feel. You've destroyed 15 years of carefully maintained distance. You forced me to confront feelings I've deliberately ignored because I couldn't allow myself the luxury of personal desire. You've made me question whether the walls I've built were necessary or just convenient shields against intimacy. She stopped, meeting his eyes. I've been queen since I was 25. My mother died in assassination. I inherited a throne I wasn't prepared for during unstable times. I survived by being perfect, untouchable, completely dedicated to duty. I couldn't be seen as weak, couldn't allow personal feelings to compromise judgment. And you've succeeded, David said, but at what cost? At the cost of everything except my throne, Ceres admitted. I have no close friends, only advisors. No family, only political allies. No personal life, only duty. I forgot how to be anything else. And then you stood in my throne room and told everyone you wanted me. Not the queen, me. She sat, her markings shifting to vulnerability. I should refuse you, for both our sakes. Every moment would be scrutinized. Your life would become political theater. Is that your only objection? No, my other objection is that I'm terrified. Ceres's honesty was startling. I've spent 15 years building walls. You're asking me to tear them down, and I don't know if I remember how. David leaned forward. Then we figure it out together. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm offering partnership. Ceres was silent, her markings flickering with conflict. Then, when you said you wanted me, my first thought wasn't this is inappropriate. It was finally. Finally, someone sees me. Finally, someone wants the person instead of the position. And that terrified me, because it meant I wanted it too. Queen Ceres's decision to accept David's choice sent shockwaves through luminary society. She announced formal courtship using ancient protocols the council couldn't easily oppose. Reactions were mixed. Some saw it as romantic, others viewed it as scandalous. The council was divided. Through it all, Ceres and David navigated their new reality. The courtship protocols provided structure, formal meetings, chaperone outings, public appearances. Within those structures, something genuine developed. David learned about the weight Ceres carried. Ceres learned about David's life before diplomatic service. The relationship transformed them both. Ceres became more open with her court, more willing to acknowledge she was a person beyond her role. David learned to navigate being the queen's chosen consort. The turning point came when a rival faction attempted to undermine Ceres's authority, arguing emotional involvement was compromising her judgment. During the council hearing, Ceres delivered a legendary speech. "You question my fitness because I've allowed myself to love someone. But which is more dangerous? A queen who feels nothing and makes decisions from cold calculation alone, or a queen who understands love and connection because she's experienced them?" David didn't compromise my judgment. He reminded me why I govern, for living, feeling people who deserve leaders who remember what it means to be fully human. She paused. "If you force me to choose, I will choose my people as always. But a queen who sacrifices all joy for duty is not a better ruler. She's just a more tragic one." The council voted to affirm her right to the relationship. A year later, they formalized their bond through luminary marriage rites, making David not just consort but king. On their wedding night, Ceres told David, "When you stood in that throne room and said you wanted me, you didn't just choose a queen. You freed one. You gave me permission to want something for myself. That gift, that moment of boldness that shattered every barrier, that's what I'll treasure forever." David held her. "When I said I wanted you, I meant all of you. The queen and the woman, the strength and the vulnerability, all of it. You're still the boldest or most foolish human I've ever met," Ceres said, her markings glowing with joy. "I'm okay with that, as long as I'm yours." Years later, when asked for leadership advice, Queen Ceres always said, "Rule well, serve your people, but don't forget you're a person too. Don't